One of the great things about studying Chinese herbology the way that I did was that I stumbled upon this and became an apprentice in an herb shop at a time when I had chronic fatigue. You know, chronic fatigue back then was a huge issue with people. I think it still is today, and it's very rarely understood as to what's actually going on because so many different people manifest so many symptoms of imbalances. Just like I did, I was extremely fatigued. I could barely pick up a bottle of herbs and put it on a shelf more than 3 times without just having my arm hurt. I was so fatigued. But that's the state of energy I was in when I discovered Chinese herbology and when I walked into this herb shop and got a position as an apprentice. So the thing that really helped me to get out of chronic fatigue, and people often assume it was the Chinese herbs that did it, and they played a huge role in that, but it was opening up my awareness of how my body worked energetically that allowed me to shift my focus on what I was taking for my chronic fatigue and immediately begin to climb out of the hole that I had put myself into. And what was that focus? It was learning about superior, general, and inferior herbs and realizing that most of the time I tried to treat what I thought was going on in my body with chronic fatigue, I was taking inferior herbs meant to kill something off because I had, accepted the idea that I had a virus or a bacteria or something that was ruining my energy. Back then everybody thought it was Epstein-Barr. Well, the reality is a very small percentage of the population has chronic fatigue, and yet something like 75% of the people in the United States have Epstein-Barr somewhere in their system. So it couldn't really be contributed to that. But by learning this system and realizing I was always trying to kill something off in my body, I missed the point of realizing that I was just worn out. My body couldn't even make energy. I was eating great food, but my internal organs and my glandular system had become so imbalanced and so weak, it couldn't even make enough energy out of my food to get me through the day. What the Chinese refer to as qi. I was eating a lot of great food to make qi, wasn't making any, didn't have any energy. I couldn't hold on to the energy I produced out of my food because my body was too worn out. And you know what the overriding reason was I couldn't hold on to any of that energy? Because I was so stressed out. I didn't know that much about stress. I didn't realize my nervous system was peaked to the point to where it was always turned on. It was like my adrenals were turned on like a fire hydrant that was open, and all the energy I put into my body just went straight out. And so learning about this system and learning that there were other herbs that I could take, like superior herbs, which actually put energy back into your organs and glands, started to change not only my health, but it changed the way that I looked at health. I realized that in my condition, by the way, with chronic fatigue, you do need a combination of superior herbs, a little bit of general and some inferior herbs because you're manifesting symptoms of viruses or bacteria all the time. And why is that happening? Again, because you're so worn out, your immune system doesn't function. And this happens with everybody with chronic fatigue. If your energy drops below a certain point, you just start expressing viruses that are circulating in your body at all times because your immune system is no longer strong enough to subdue it. This is something I never had ever heard before I started training in Chinese herbology. Never heard anything about it, knew anything about these different systems. But when I heard it and started to utilize the herbs and see it actually work in my own body, that's when I knew that I had stumbled on something that was quite unique and really made sense. And this is how I got over chronic fatigue, by simultaneously building myself up, taking a few herbs for symptomatic things, along with the superior herbs, but also by calming my nervous system. I had my greatest moments of learning and awareness when I took some superior herbs that calmed my nervous system and allowed me to see into what was actually happening to me. And then by learning that system and applying it to the other system, which the store was all about, the herb shop was all about this system of 3 treasures, meaning that you were born with a certain amount of life force. You could produce a certain amount of energy every day to protect that so you don't tap into your life force. And that's the energy you make from breathing and from the food that you eat. This is what they refer to as qi most often. But also that you have this shen aspect to your being, meaning that there's some aspect to you that's related to your spirit, to your soul. And if that's not right, then your nervous system gets tweaked and you become overstressed. And so it was about a balance of that and using herbs to bring me into that balance that allowed me to see into my problem and then to regain my health. Because the reality is, if you don't protect your life force and hold on to that, you're going to get tired way before your years. And then if you don't eat right to produce energy so that you have a source of energy for your daily activity, then you're going to basically be running off your adrenals or your life force to get you through the day. And if you're doing that constantly, it's very hard to be in the right frame of mind and express yourself from your inner being or your what they call your spirit or your shen, because you're too worn out. And this is one of the gifts that you get when you actually come into balance. Once your life force is consolidated and you're making good energy, you put yourself into a position to have experiences of your true inner self. And that's really what 3 treasure system and Chinese herbology is all about. It's about you and discovering who that you is and manifesting it and putting it out into the world.